Again, my name is Mike Tabor, and today we're going to go over the Closeout module. As always, we do our Keystroke Live on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and mute the group. If you have any questions or problems, please let me know, and it's good that you can hear me today. So we'll go ahead and do this. All right, looks like we have a good attendance. Well, let's talk about the Closeout module. It is accessed through Sales Manager, and it's pretty much the tool that you use to reconcile your cash drawers. You can actually go in there and set up different reports to print. You can run closeouts for all registers, or you can do it for each individual register. There's ways to easily update the starting drawer amounts and the next starting date, and we'll go through that in a little bit here. You can also, in version 7.15, you can now edit paid outs. Prior to 7.15, you had to actually delete the paid out and then recreate it, which was kind of cumbersome. There is a purge credit card payment functionality inside the Closeout. This is if you have converted to data prior to version 7 or version 8, usually version 6 or before. There might be some credit card data in your program. And we're also required by PCI to give people a tool to purge data. We'll talk a little bit about how credit card data is handled in version 7 and what's going to be version 8. And there's an advanced only feature about how to manage registers. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into Keystroke here into Register 1. Let me switch screens here. I think I just changed over to, I have actually two copies of Keystroke going. One is Register 1 and one is Register 2, just to show a little bit of difference here. So I'm going to go ahead and clerk in, and I'm already in Sales Manager. So inside of Sales Manager, we get to the Closeout menu by going to the Special menu at the top, and that's where you'll see Closeout. When you enter the Closeout for the first time, it actually brings up your current register number. In this case, it's register number 1. It actually brings up a starting date, which is the last ending date that you had run a Closeout. So for instance, back on February 7th in this data, at 5:02 p.m. I finished a Closeout. And what it does then, it says, well, I guess you want to start from the last time you counted the drawer to the current date and time, which is 11/11 at 10:04. You can use this little update button here to actually reset the starting date for number 1. For instance, if I know this is wrong and I'm a manager and I want to say, well, I don't want to do the closeout now, but when the clerk does their daily closeout, I'd like them to have the ability to just start with today and not have to type any starting or ending dates. So I can actually go in here and put a date in, and let me see if I've done this right. I'm going to just do this through a 0 a.m. and we'll say update. And it says, would you like to make the next closeout start at today's date at 0 a.m. And as you see, I actually put that in as the ending. So I kind of mimicked that the last closeout would have ended this morning. It could have ended yesterday at 5 p.m. or whatever the dates might be. So when I say OK to that, it just comes back to this screen like nothing happened. But I'm going to show you by exiting this module here and just going back to Sales Manager. And I'm just going to throw in a sale, for instance, here while we're thinking of stuff. And let's just do some big dollar amounts here just so we can see some numbers. So I've just created a transaction for around $46 in cash. I'm going to hit save on that. And so as you go through and you make different transactions throughout the day, notice that at the bottom left it says Register 1, so I know I'm actually on Register 1. You use the R switch to set up the different registers. Some companies actually want to throw all money into one big bucket and call all machines Register 1 until they have a problem and can't find some money, and then they wish they had done something different. Anyhow, back to the Closeout. So we go to the Special menu, and then we select Closeout. And here, as you'll see, that it says, oh, hey, it's starting at 11:11:15 at 0 a.m. That's because me as a manager did this in preparation. I didn't want them to have to accidentally do a closeout from February to today. That would have just thrown them for a loop. And it ends at the current time right here, and the time is 10:06. So we'll say OK to that. This is Register 1's information. Keep in mind that this closeout is not like old registers where I guess they used to call it the Z-tape and so forth, to actually close out, to make things happen, to set them in stone. The closeout in Keystroke is just a fancy calculator. It's just a way to add up your dollars and cents. It's a way to count your checks and so forth and make a deposit. I'm going to show you some features, then I'll go back into Configuration Manager and show you how we set them up. If I'm in the count column right here of cash, I can just count my money manually and then start adding it up or write it on a post-it note, or I can hit Insert in this case. And this brings up what we call a cash calculator. We have three different types of calculators: a cash calculator, a check calculator, and then we'll see the other calculator in there where it just kind of is a checkbox list. So this is where people would go in and start counting their monies. I'm going to hit Escape and just go back a step. If at any time somebody said, well, my drawer had some money in it, I do remember we started with $150, they can just tab over to this field, or they can, again, Shift Tab back to the field, or we can just click on a field to get from point A to point B. So if for any reason the starting drawer amount was incorrect and they knew they started with $150 in this case, you can just type that number in. So now it's actually showing me that if I had $150 in the drawer and I had some payments, my total would be this number. You're going to find out a lot of clerks just say, oh yeah, I counted $196.32 because I know that's what it is, but I'm not going to count it. We have security levels to tell them to actually limit this functionality where they don't see the dollar amounts. They actually have to go to the count field, and they can choose to count it manually or use our cash calculator. But they could go in there and say, well, I've got 6 20s and I've got, I don't know, 6 10s and 2 5s and, I don't know, $2 bills aren't very popular anymore. Oh, maybe 6 1s, and I'm, of course, making this up myself. And you go in and had a quarter, and maybe I had actually 5 quarters in there, and you can see I'm already a little bit over. And maybe 5 nickels and about a whole roll of pennies that I found or something. So maybe there was, you can actually do the roll down here and say, well, I found 50 cents, 50 pennies in a roll. And maybe there's also 12 loose ones in there. So they could go ahead and do this, and then they could print this out. Sometimes the boss or manager or owner wants to see the actual counts. So you could send this by clicking the print button down on the bottom right to a receipt printer. They could put it inside, we'll call it the envelope with the cash, and give it to the manager, put it in the safe, and or do what they need to do. So if I say OK to that number, and then I hit Enter, you'll see that I counted $198.12, so I had $1.80 extra in my drawer. That's not a problem. Drawers are really never perfect in the real world. The check calculator. If I hit Insert here, I'm going to see what this one's set to. This tells me I had 1 check in the drawer, and there's a little checkbox here. If I had 25 checks, I could go through and hit the space bar to say I got the check number 1, 2, 3, and so forth and so forth. If I had to add something, say, hey, I found another check. It was 99458 for $20. This is another case where I have an overage, but now I can go ahead and print this if I needed to, or I can save it. And maybe the check should have been deposited in Register 2, but that'll allow somebody actually to reconcile it. So I'm just going to hit Save on this one, and it just ports the dollars into there. When I hit Enter, it does a calculation and it says I'm over by $20. Here's a scenario where there's the on account amount. Most people don't. They might have actually signed receipts or signed invoices by the people that took merchandise on their account, and they again could use this is just an adding machine, or if I hit F9 on this, I can change it to a calculator. Or we could set this one up to actually have we call it the check calculator, where there'd be a list of all the on-account payments. Most cases, people aren't saving receipts that are, let's say, signed by the customer. So a lot of times you don't want them to have to go put in the numbers over and over. And actually, this was a return. I can show you the transaction, but they returned some goods and it put $91.70 credit on their account. We could leave this at 0, and we don't need to count these necessarily. So here's kind of a unique case. I've done some closeouts. Again, the numbers I put in here in this count column do not change the sales transactions that they came from. It's just a fancy calculator. Down below gives you some more information, and I'm just going to hit F10 here to continue on to the next screen. This is what we call the deposit screen. The deposit screen says, well, what am I going to deposit? Am I going to go ahead and deposit what the payment is, the total number of payments, in this case cash, or am I going to deposit everything but leave $150 in the drawer? If I always am told to leave $150 in the drawer, I could type that number in, and it's going to tell me that I'm going to deposit a little more money. I'm going to actually deposit more money than was actually taken in on invoices. We're going to go ahead and check. You usually don't leave anything in the drawer. This is kind of a unique case, and we'll go through the settings that you usually leave check at 0 because you're going to deposit both checks. And notice the on account. It did not care that I counted or didn't count. It's going to leave everything at 0, kind of a blank slate. So we didn't really count anything, therefore I'm not going to deposit anything. It's just a bunch of IOUs anyhow. So if I hit F10 here, I can select Print Closeout. I believe I have this set up to the screen. I'm going to give it a go, and let's find out what we get. This is a feature we're going to go over in a second here called the Purge Payments. This is actually prompting me, and in this new wave of version 7, version 8, we don't really need to purge payments because payments are not stored in Keystroke. They're stored in KeyPay for 72 hours. So we can actually suppress this message and have it just do its business in the background. So I'm going to say yes to do this, and it's going to tell me there's no payments. But a lot of people get that message, and they're just tired of hitting OK and OK and OK on it. And this one probably was not set up. I'm just going to do save and exit, and we'll go look at some settings here. All right, by the way, when you do save and exit, it exits you back out to the Sales Manager. I'm going to jump back into the Closeout and take a look at some more features. Now, right now, I'm not going to do a closeout. I'm actually just going to look at my settings, maybe look at some paid outs and so forth, so I can hit cancel here or the escape key. Let's take a look at the Closeout Parameters first. This is where most everything is done for setting things up. Some common settings are the default to all registers at the top. If you want to add up all the money from all drawers, you would turn that on. That's for the small mom and pop shop that maybe has one cash drawer for 2 registers. It might have, they put everything in a shoebox. You never know. So that's an option there. ROA payments, that's if they're taking checks. Let's say that $20 check might have been an ROA payment. There wasn't an invoice for it, so you could turn that on. This lock date just doesn't allow me to go back in time and so forth. A couple people turn on, they open the drawer at the start. So when they go in, they put in their starting date and time range. Ka-ching, the door opens up. They can pull the tail out and start their closeout. They don't have to use the security level for open drawer or do a paid out that's a bogus one. Just open the drawer. This don't update drawer is a way to say, if I do $150 in the drawer every day and I set it to $150, I'd like that to stay no matter what people type in. So this little default end time buffer has been used for some people that actually will do a sale and immediately click on like a closeout button and go right into the closeout, and it really tells it how far back or how far in the future do you want to go. It has to do with if you're right in the middle, like at 2:05 and 24 seconds, but you want to, in the transaction, you want to catch it, so you want to make sure you have that 1 minute. Leave it at 1 minute. Nobody ever needs it except for a few people. Here's the settings. The print to printer. the receipt printer we have. Let's take a look at these settings. These are kind of like print buttons, but they're print buttons for the closeout. Scott Welch asked a question a little while back about, is the starting date saved by the register number? The answer is yes. It does save everybody's starting date and time for every different register number. And that's stored in one of the files. I believe it's drawers.dat. And so you'll see when we go into register 2 and do a closeout, it's going to have a different starting date and time. I'm going to change this, so that's fine. Receipt printer. I'm going to print it to the screen. Forget the prompt before printing. Let's talk about these different closeout reports here. Let me move my cursor. The cash out report is pretty much just shows you all your different payment types, just like I was typing them in. I had cash, check, Visa, MasterCard, on account, and so forth. The sales summary report, we'll take a look at that. It actually shows you things like how many invoices I took in, how many were layaways, how many were orders, and so forth. Keep in mind that payments, that's what the closeout's good for doing. It's counting payments. It doesn't always pertain to invoices. For instance, if I do a closeout for today, I could actually be taking in a last payment of a layaway that was started last month, or maybe let's say a new payment. I put something on layaway today, a brand new HD TV, but I put $100 down on layaway. That $100 is a payment for today, even though there's no invoice yet for it. I'm going to come back tomorrow or next week or just before Christmas to finalize the payment and pick it up then and make an invoice then. Those are deposits made, meaning a payment that's made but there's no invoice. If I come back around Christmas and pay the next, let's call it $300 on a $400 TV, $100 have already been paid, then you'll see that that's a deposit of $100 that was used to pay off a $400 invoice. So the sales report, this one here, is very good for that. It kind of shows you in summary, but it has one number. It'll say deposit used, $100. A lot of people just go, wow, where did that money come from? Or where did that, I need that money because I have a $400 invoice. Well, we've added in version 7.15 and version 8 this deposits used when needed and deposits used always. Most people will check this third box down, deposits used when needed. Looks like there's a drawing issue there. Deposits used when needed will actually print a separate little report saying, hey, there's $100. It was a payment back on, we'll call it in this case, 11/1 of the beginning of this month for an invoice that was created today. Deposits used always is just a way, if it's always happening, you can turn that on. I don't expect many people using that. The bottom three here are optional. A lot of people will print the payment report. You get different detail information, and we'll turn that on and off and see how it works. Some people will do a credit memo report. That's if you're taking in ROA payments at the point of sale and not applying them to anything. And some people, it seems like a lot of liquor stores like to print a department report. It kind of just breaks out your sales by, let's say, liquor, wine, and beer, or cigarettes, and so forth. So I'm just turning on the print to screen, and I'm going to go back and reprint that last one. I'm going to say OK to this. These are the settings right here for where would I like when I hit the print for, let's say, my cash calculator or check calculator, where would I like it to go? You could set this up to print it directly to the screen. I could set it up to go right to my receipt printer automatically, and so forth. In my example, I'll leave it at this. I think I'm going to make sure these at least have some settings, otherwise the format might be kind of goofy. Excuse me. And here's that purge payments option here. More commonly now, we're wanting to change this on save to automatic. So when I click on save, I don't want to have the clerk to be prompted to purge payments and ask what does that mean. I just want it to actually take care of business in the background. So I can just do automatic. And the interval is how often do I want it to happen. If they do 5 closeouts a day, do I want to go through this process? You might notice if you have some customers' old data, version 4 or older version 6 data, and they have 10, 20 years of data. The first time you run a closeout, it'll look like it hangs up, but what it's doing, it's going back all the way through all those transactions, and it's saying, I've purged everything way back 20 years ago, and then it updates this last purge date, so the next time I run it, tomorrow for instance, it doesn't have to go back that far. So the first time you might see something funny happening. If it ever appears like it's locking up, give it a minute. It could also be something like hardware, like the cache drawer is not opening up. So I'm just going to say OK to these settings, and there is some F1 help on all of these in here if you need to look at the details. So I'm going to hit cancel, and just like a transaction, a closeout is actually a transaction of what I counted. Back in the day, version 4 and stuff, once you did a closeout, it was a fancy calculator. If you want, nobody ever wrote down what the counted amounts were, or what did I count. So here I can go to Edit Print, and I can pull up this closeout that I did today. It shows me my over shorts and so forth. And that over short number is kind of exaggerated because I chose not to put anything in here. If I hit F10 to go to the complete, I could just hit enter, by the way. I don't need to hit F10. If I just hit enter all the way through, once I get to the last payment and hit enter, it brings up the deposit screen automatically. And let's say I was going to keep the drawer at $150, just like I do. I'm going to hit F10. I'm going to select Print Closeout. And this printed a 2-page report. So I'm going to go back to page 1 just to show you what it looks like. This is the cash out report at the top of page 1. It actually shows you every payment. It shows you the starting drawer amount, the payments, the total, what I counted, the over short, and so forth. There's some cash totals. These are kind of nice for breaking things out. You might want to know what your total gift cards sales were, or sales minus redeems, the total balance. Down here you'll see the number of sales was 3. This is the sales summary report. Here's where you'd see those deposits used and deposits made, and sometimes there'll be, more commonly, it will be a problem with, I went to the office on register 5 and I fixed an invoice that was on register 1 by changing the check amount or something of that, and it actually took on the register 5 payment. So people want to go hunt that down. That other report would do that. I didn't have any deposits used, so it didn't do that. Page 2 of this report, this is an actual payments report, and we're not really detailing anything here. You probably would not want to detail every cash transaction, but you could. More often than not, people will have the check actually showing you every payment. A lot of people like their Visa, MasterCard showing every one, especially if they're collecting receipts, and so forth and so on. So this is just the setting here. This report, the paid out payments report, has some settings, and they're actually attached to every payment type. So we'll go back there and just show you a little bit of that. So I'm going to just hit Save and Exit. Hope you're able to see that report. If you weren't, let me know. I'm going to go back to Configuration Manager. This is where the last little bit of information is. It's under your Configuration Manager under the Tables menu, and then under Sales Payment Types. So let's just take a look at cash, for instance. If I go ahead and open up cash, you'll see in the bottom right, this is where those closeout settings come from. It uses the cash calculator. This tells it what I want it to do. Right now it was set for payments, so when I actually counted my payments, I had a little overage in the drawer, but a lot of people will change this on the cash, clicking on deposit, and they'll set it to keep drawer, meaning they're going to deposit everything, including the over and shorts. So keep drawer is very often what most people will do for cash. Detailed on the report, you probably wouldn't want to see every single cash payment. Imagine a liquor store printing out pages and pages of every cash transaction. Probably wouldn't need that. You could say OK to this. I like these settings the way they are. Let's take a look at check. So when I select check, I'm going to come down here, and this is that check calculator where I could find every check and put a little checkbox next to it. I can insert a line if I wanted to. The deposit is usually always going to be the payments. You could say the count, might be better in case you're counting checks that somehow weren't there. You want them to all be deposited. Just helps you fill out the last field. So I'm going to select count on that one. And yes, maybe I would like to see every check on that last page report just to kind of have it printed out. People will use, check it off with their pencil and so forth. We'll say OK to that. I did have the on account I wanted to take a look at. This used the standard calculator. I might prefer to change that one to the check calculator. Because if you are actually taking signed receipts, for instance, from people that are putting things on their account and putting those signed receipts in the cash drawer, it's a lot easier to reconcile the drawer by just going through and go, oh, there's that one for $40, there's that one for $20, there's that one for $10, and so forth, instead of just adding them up and then you don't know what you're missing. You might be going, I'm missing this one for $18.99 because it's the way it's done. A lot of people might, if they don't do too much business on account, they might want to turn on detailed on reports. So I'm just going to save these settings, say OK here. We'll save the changes. I can go back into Sales Manager or the Closeout through Sales Manager. And again, I can choose not to do any closeout. I'm just going to edit the existing one. Excuse me. So I pull this back up. I don't think I need to change anything. But let's take a look when I go to the deposit screen. This has actually been saved, so it doesn't need to fill out anything new for me. I do the print the closeout here. This one right here is only one payment, and I think it's because it's saved, it's not showing me the detail. What I did want to do is go back. And now, like for instance, the on account, I can hit the insert key in this field. Still using the other calculator. Maybe I didn't save it. Interesting. Well, let's go through just a couple more things. I'm going to clear the closeout. The register number. I can be at register number 1 and I can put in register number 2 if I want to just count that. Let's say I'm in the back office, I'm in register 5. I can say I want to count register 2's monies. So I can put in number 2 here. It tells me that the register number changed. And this goes back to Scott's question earlier about the 150. Oh, I'm reading another question, sorry. It pulled up a different date and time range. And I'm going to say OK. I'm going to take a look at that. And now this is register 2's information, and it does use register 2's date and time. There's a question here about what happens if the cash payout leaves the drawer short with the setting cash drawer set to 150. If you count, let's say you counted less money, $20 less than there should have been. Maybe it should have been 190, but it was 170. If you've been told to keep $150 in the drawer and deposit the rest, short or over, you leave $150 in the drawer and you put the rest in the envelope and you put in your closeout report and your printed receipt saying there's some missing money, and then you give that to the boss to reconcile that over short issue. Most people don't do it the other way. They don't say, I am going to deposit all the money and leave the drawer short. They usually leave it at a balanced number so that the next person that comes in has some good faith that there's that amount of money in the drawer and they know exactly what to count it. I hope I answered that question correctly. Anyhow, we're back here on register number 2. I'm actually on register 1 counting register 2's money. And I just did one cash transaction and so forth for that. So let me look at our list here of things. I want to make sure I covered everything. We can edit and delete existing paid outs. We can purge the credit cards. Let me go back to the closeout and the purging. One more thing. If I clear the screen, it just brings up the date time range of what I want to do next. It doesn't really clear anything yet. But if I put in a 0 here, that means all registers to Keystroke. So if I say register numbers have been changed, it's going to actually do a closeout now for both register 1 and 2, and it shows it up here at the top. And actually it would be registers 3, 4, 5, and 6, and it will go back in this very big time frame because there was a register that must not have been counted way back when, so a lot of stuff came up. I could clear that and say, no, I didn't mean that for that to happen. I wanted that to be at today's date at 0 a.m. for all registers. Now I say OK. Some of those monies disappear and so forth. So you can do it for all registers manually, or you can set that parameter to do all registers. Let's talk about this paid outs just quickly. There's a way to edit. I don't think I have any paid outs in the tutor data. I don't. So I could, that's the Shift F7. I'll just do it right here. I could say make change and say $20, or maybe pizza, bought pizza for $20. That's a paid out. It means $20 came out of the drawer. I bought the office some pizza. Now if I go under payment, paid outs and edit, it'll show that, and I can always hit enter on it and say, oh, it really wasn't 20. I gave him a tip. It was $22.50 or something, and that's as easy as that. So now that payment's been changed. The closeout will actually recognize paid outs as a different payment type. One last thing I should show you. This is an advanced only feature. In the closeout menu, there's manage registers. This is for people that have many tills, many registers. They can go in here and they can say, okay, for register 2, I'm going to give it a starting drawer amount of $150. Excuse me. The next starting date is going to be the 12th tomorrow at 0 a.m. for instance. Now register 2 is ready to go. Register 1, maybe register 1, they're going to come in at noon. And for today, and they're going to be starting with a different drawer of $250 because maybe I'm taking tills out of the safe and giving them a different till. So I can go through and start setting up tills or register numbers and so forth, and do all this right in the closeout. So I can do this in the back office and so forth. So the closeout's, in summary, kind of is a very fancy calculator. Hit save on that. And the reset just brings us back up. So again, the closeout's a very fancy calculator. It doesn't actually change any payments. If you need to you found a problem, let's say a transaction has a cash payment when it should have been check, you have to go edit that transaction. And if you go edit that transaction and go pull up an old closeout, it'll tell you that something's changed. Would you like to reload all the data and so forth. So I think I've kind of covered closeout A through Z. There's always a lot more to things like that. To easily update the next drawer starting date, that's that update button. Edit and delete existing paid outs, that's under the paid out menu. The purge function, you can go in there if you have any concerns or you've been told by your merchant processor to purge your point of sale. We have a tool for that. Just go under the closeout menu, select purge, and it'll just ask you, would you like to do that now? And you do that. And lastly, manage the registers. So I think I've gone through everything. I'm going to open up the microphones now and see if anyone has any questions. Here we go. So please let me know if you have any questions on the closeout module.
I have a follow-up to my question earlier about the 150.
Okay.
Let's assume that your ending balance is 145 because you had a $5 payout, but no payments in.
Okay.
You don't have anything. The end of the drawer is 145, so the next person is going to start with 145. But because you have that set it to automatically say 150, how do you account for that shortage?
Right. So in this closeout here, I'm going to go back and thank you. Some dogs are wild. In here, if I go to edit that closeout, for instance, I'm just going to pull up the one that we have already done. This one right here, you said, let's say I didn't have any payments or for whatever reason. On this screen right here, I can say, no, I don't have that. If I change that to 145, $5 short, and if I had zero, it would be a $0 deposit, and the count would be 0, and everything would be fine. You just change it right here. What it's trying to do is trying to help you 99.9% of the time to keep the drawer starting at 150. But like you said, if you just did a paid out of that drawer, no transactions happened, you just have to manually change it, and you're good to go. Good question, though. You don't,
But
again,
the person starting the next day is going to start with
145,
the
right?
person the next day is going to start with 145. So how do you let them know that the starting amount is 145 instead of the 150? That the system automatically resets to 150.
Yeah, I think here's what's going to happen. Right here, the drawer is 145. You would have to go to the parameters. I'm going to go to these closeout parameters. This don't update drawer, you would leave that off. You would allow it that the clerks can update that drawer amount, meaning the last person that did a closeout will update the drawer. And then in this scenario, if I leave the drawer, I might have to reload the closeout. Let me just bounce around from one module back to the other. I want to make sure it works. So I come into the closeout. I'm already doing my closeout like I just did. But for whatever reason, the drawer is 145, like you mentioned, Scott. So right now, when I hit F10 and I go ahead and just save the closeout, the next person that comes into the closeout for register 1 will start at this time. When they say OK, their drawer starts at 145.
Okay.
Now, how do you tell that clerk that, hey, you should be counting 145? You leave a piece of paper in there saying the drawer starting amount will be 145. Keystroke will remember that. Or if you don't want the clerks to be tinkering with it and you told the manager that. So we leave this parameter turned on. Don't update drawer, which means don't let the clerks update the drawer. You tell the manager, hey, this drawer is starting $5 short. Then the manager uses advanced POS, goes to manage registers. He says, oh, this is going to be a starting drawer amount of, it's really $140. He just fixes it right there.
Okay.
And now that drawer starts at 140, the next person that comes in. So we have two different ways to do it. Let the clerks finish the transaction with what the drawer is really at, and it's kind of like a floating drawer. You know, I always want to deposit $50 or $100, leave somewhere between, nobody wants to make it $150 and find out that they have to count all these pennies and change. They might say you leave it closest to $150 without changing any of the change. So the starting drawer might be $162.37. Also, if that's your business model, then you turn off that parameter.
Okay, thank you.
Good. All right, well, we had a good talk on Closeout. We went a little long today, but thank you very much. Next
Mike,
week,
Mike,
yes.
it's kind of hard. I've got a question for you. How do you find a deposit use transaction?
You use the new latest version of 715 or later. I'll bounce back into Keystroke here. We have this new feature we've recently added under the parameters here. Under these printed reports, you turn on one or both of those, deposits used. It'll print a different report. Back in the olden days, we would have this algorithm of run a shorter and shorter and shorter closeout till you find it. People didn't like that answer. So nowadays, it's you turn on these reports, and it will actually say, oh, it's $100. It came from 2/1 of 15 on invoice number 45. And you go pull that up, and you go, oh, look at that. Somebody edited that old invoice. They deleted cash, put in check, but they forgot to change the date back to the invoice date. Something like that. It's a great tool.
Okay, thank you.
Boy, it's been many years waiting for this report. Okay? Good question.
Amen.
Amen. For those that have been around that long. Great. Well, thanks again. If you have any questions on the closeout that we didn't cover, please just give us a call, and tech support will help you out. And next week, Lynn's going to go over some different backup procedures and options in the next week's Keystroke Live. Thank you very much.